Hi, I'm Enchanting Nubianette. Welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm going to share a news story that has made headline news. I was so livid when I saw the video at first. I couldn't even put out a video right then and there because I needed to settle and calm down at first. And it's because an incident like this, a racial bias incident like this, happens throughout our country so often, but thankfully this time it was recorded. In North Babylon, Long Island, a disturbing video took place showing the fire chief, Peter Alt, shouting expletives at a 10-year-old black girl during a mental health emergency. Now, this is known by her family that she does have, a mental illness, or, she has these behavioral issues. However, the footage was recorded by a concerned neighbor, and thankfully it was. And it was circulated all throughout social media. I first saw this on TikTok, like I said, a few days ago, and then on YouTube. So thankfully it has caused a lot of outrage. Many people are starting to share their thoughts about this, and it definitely has prompted a mega investigation regarding the chief's alt conduct. That is Peter Alt. So, on the evening of August 4th, just a few days ago, the child was strapped in a stretcher inside the back of an ambulance truck, and she was screaming out, "I want to go home. I want to go home." She was belligerent. I'm sure she had a lot of anxiety at that point. And again, she's very young, not even a teenager. So in response to her saying, "I want to go home," you hear the fire chief, Peter Alt, yelling at her at the top of his voice, saying to shut the F up. He said, "It's like this with you every effing week." So he continues berating her to shut her mouth, shut her mouth. And she's pleading that she wants to be with her family. So everyone, it's horrible that he was berating her, but even more so, there were several police officers, again in Babylon, who were right there at the scene, and they didn't say a word. No one stood up for this young child. Now, the child's grandmother, she did ask to be anonymous. When I watched the video, they didn't show her face. And she did say that she was devastated by the footage. She said, in quotes, "Maybe it was a blessing I wasn't there." She said, because, in quotes, she said, "because I would have jumped all over this guy." And the grandmother even mentioned that she has rapport with the firearm fighters and even the police officers in the area. So she was definitely devastated and shocked, as anyone should be. And again, this is not an adult. And even though it was a weekly crisis according to online reports, an adult who is trained should do so much better than this. And the grandmother even mentioned, when you call for help, the police, the fire department, they're supposed to help you, not treat you like garbage and curse at a child like that. End of quotes. So everyone, as I mentioned, there were so many police officers who stood there. They didn't do not a thing, all of them in uniform. And from what I know, these police officers are trained to demonstrate courtesy, respect, and professionalism. None of them utilize any of their training. Mind you, the police chief, he's a 22-year-old veteran. And she's such a young child. And it's upsetting that the police chief did not show any respect or patience, level headedness with her at all. Terrible. So the next day, August 5th, the North Babylon Volunteer Fire Company confirmed that Chief Alt had been relieved from his duties pending a formal investigation. So, according to new online reports, the department said, in quotes, the conduct is unacceptable and does not reflect the values of our department. We are reviewing all training, policies, and procedures related to emergency calls, end of quotes. The fire chief, he's head of that department. So if he's doing this, you know that everyone who is working under him follows suit. That's the reason why no one said anything, because he's showing disrespect and they're doing the same. And again, he has been in the department for 22 years, over 2 decades, and this is what we see now. Just imagine all the experiences many families, people of color especially, had with him previously. So, the fire company has not confirmed whether racial slurs were used. However, the community members allege that the verbal abuse extended far beyond what was captured on video. And I know for sure, I looked at that video 4 times back to back, and I did hear him say, from what I heard, he said the N word. But allegedly, they're saying that he may or may have not, but I know I heard that. And I have to say that years ago, this was in the early 2000s. I remember I was working in Long Island, not in Suffolk, but in Nassau County. And I remember reading a very thorough article that Long Island was the third most segregated township, or area in the entire United States. And Long Island has a lot of great, things as regarding, you can get a very nice home, have, nice space, significant space between yourself and your neighbors, great parks, schools for your children, a lot of malls, a lot of great restaurants, low crime rate, great quality of food regarding supermarkets, and, just good quality overall of lifestyle. However, I did find that it was very segregated, because on the top of my head, I could only think of some diverse towns, and Long Island is huge. Again, it's consisted of so many towns in Nassau and Suffolk County. And the most diverse areas, I would say, are Valley Stream, Uniondale, Freeport, Elmont, Wyandanch, Glen Cove, Brentwood. There may be a few others I can't recall now, but again, that's a small amount compared to how vast Long Island is. So, the child's family did state that the emergency call was made after the girl became emotionally overwhelmed when her phone was taken away. And unfortunately, everyone, we have been seeing so many videos of kids just, spiraling out when they cannot even cope not having their phone or any of their gadgets, their gaming systems or anything. And it's a shame, because these things were even meant to be addictive. It's not good for children to have these gadgets and for long term and several hours a day. We know that it deteriorates the brain, and it's addicting, and the children should be outside playing, socializing, learning in many different ways, not only using these devices. So the child's grandmother emphasized that previous interactions with the first responders, it had been respectful, compassionate, and that's why she was even more shocked about this incident. So thank goodness that the neighbor recorded the interaction, I have to say. I love when truth comes to light. And that is, the case. If no one reported this man before, I'm not sure if they have. Unfortunately, many times you do report someone who's in law enforcement or of authority and nothing happens. There's no accountability, there's no follow up. These things get ignored and, they're not held accountable. So I'm hoping that he will be fired for this, that he would lose, his pension. But unfortunately, on the flip side, because Long Island, the way it is, the mindset of many people who are there who don't respect people of color, he can easily find another job again, high ranking job as well, unfortunately. So, as a result, advocates are calling for even more accountability, especially racial bias training and mental health crisis training as well. Because as I know, and everyone else, I'm sure you believe too, that children in crisis need care, not cruelty. And that's exactly what one community member in Long Island mentioned online. Yes, especially when you're working with children, even if you're not in a good mood, it's better for you to let someone else handle the situation if you don't have the patience, if you don't have the the care or even a rationale to say this is not someone who's a mature minded person. You have to be the adult and do your job the best that you can. This is a child you're working with. And that little girl is going to have so many negative memories of her interaction with the people in the police force and also the fire department because of this. And it's unfortunate because, again, her family needs to give her a lot of help with counseling and even discipline. These children should not spaz out or not be able to cope when their phone is taken away, or if the phone is lost, or if the phone is damaged. There's so many awesome ways for children to learn and enjoy their day instead of relying on these gadgets. So, like I said, this is a news story that needs to be shared. Please comment. You know, what do you think about this incident? Do you know of anyone who has been affected by, law enforcement or even uh, fire fighters, especially children? And I do have to say one thing before I finish that I remember. It probably was about 2 years ago. There was an African American male, and he said to a veteran firefighter in a restaurant, he was there with his family. He said, "Oh, I'm so thankful to you, as a veteran firefighter for all the work you have done throughout your years." And that veteran firefighter, who was Caucasian, he took the time to admit to that African American male that he's not proud of what he had done in the past because many decades ago, when he was much younger, he admitted that the colleagues, his colleagues and him, they purposely caused the demise of more than one black family. So they were there to, of course, assist and to help to put out the fire. And they basically, unfortunately, caused those black people to pass away. So, I would have to say that black people, you need to make sure that you maintain your homes often, especially the electrical system. Make sure you have an engineer report, because you cannot rely on any so-called professional to help you. If they have a mindset that they do not like you, if they do hate you, you cannot depend on them to help save you in time of need. Thank you for watching, and please remember to